Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Vikings Nation. Everyone keeps arguing about where this team finishes in the standings this year, but honestly, that conversation is skipping right past the storylines that will actually determine the answer. There's real pressure building in one specific corner of this offense. There's a defining, career-altering year ahead for one of Minnesota's young stars. There's a defender nobody saw coming who's now demanding genuine national attention. And there's a talented rookie facing a far steeper, far more demanding road than most fans currently realize. So let's break down all four of these storylines, because together they might tell you more about this Vikings season than any preseason power ranking ever could. The backfield question nobody wants to answer out loud. Let's start with the concern that keeps surfacing every single time analysts break down Minnesota's realistic chances in 2026. It isn't the quarterback situation. It isn't the coaching staff. It isn't even the defense, despite all the offseason turnover there. It's the backfield. And that alone tells you exactly how much pressure is quietly sitting on Kevin O'Connell's shoulders heading into this season. We already know O'Connell has talked openly about building a more balanced offensive identity, one that doesn't force the passing game to single-handedly carry this team every single Sunday. Bringing Frank Smith onto this coaching staff wasn't some random hire either. This organization clearly wants to become more physical, more efficient on the ground, and considerably less predictable overall. But then you actually look at the personnel currently in that running back room, and that optimism gets tested almost immediately. Pro Football Focus recently ranked Aaron Jones as just the 29th best starting running back in the entire league. Now, rankings alone don't win football games, sure, but they absolutely reflect what plenty of people around this league are genuinely thinking. Jones still commands real respect because when he's healthy, he remains incredibly smart, versatile, and dangerous both as a runner and as a receiver out of the backfield. We've all seen flashes of the exact same player who tormented opposing defenses for years while in Green Bay. But the real concern here has become his overall availability. Last season, he battled through nagging injuries on what felt like a near-weekly basis, and while he genuinely showed real toughness by staying on the field whenever humanly possible, asking him to reliably carry this offense across a full 17-game slate remains a genuinely risky proposition heading into this season. That's exactly where Jordan Mason enters this entire conversation. There's real, genuine excitement building around how his skill set fits into a wide zone running scheme and physically. He possesses traits that could make him either an ideal complementary piece or potentially this offense's future lead back. But here's the important distinction worth remembering. Projecting someone into that kind of featured role is a completely different exercise than actually watching him prove it out against elite NFL defenses week after grueling week. Vikings fans still remember exactly what it felt like watching Adrian Peterson single-handedly dominate opposing defenses seemingly on his own. Then came Dalvin Cook, whose sheer explosiveness gave this offense an entirely different identity for several genuinely electric seasons. Comparing anyone currently on this roster to either of those two players honestly isn't fair. But it does highlight exactly how different this current running back room feels compared to Minnesota's recent history. Instead of proven, established dominance at the position, what currently exists is cautious optimism at best. This front office clearly understood that exact reality throughout this year's draft process too. Rather than reaching for a running back in a class they simply didn't love, they stayed genuinely patient, believing next offseason could realistically present far better opportunities if they ultimately decide to invest heavily at the position down the road. Financially, that patient approach also made real sense, especially after missing out on some of the bigger available veteran names elsewhere around the league this offseason. Still, that patience only actually works if this current group produces enough on the field to genuinely support the passing game around it. Kevin O'Connell has earned an enormous amount of trust because of everything he's already accomplished as a play caller, but even the very best offensive minds in this league still need a reliable, dependable ground attack to lean on. Maybe Aaron Jones has one more genuinely outstanding season left in the tank. Maybe Jordan Mason becomes exactly the alpha back this offense has been quietly searching for. Or maybe, just maybe, this backfield becomes the exact weakness standing directly between the Vikings and legitimate championship contention. Training camp might finally start answering some of these lingering questions, because every single carry from here forward is going to tell us a little bit more about whether this offense is genuinely ready to change its overall identity. Jordan Addison's make-or-break contract year here's a storyline that's quietly become one of the single biggest questions hanging over this entire organization. And it honestly has nothing to do with whether the underlying talent is actually there. We already know the ability exists. The real problem is that talent alone simply doesn't earn a player a second NFL contract anymore, especially when you're sharing the spotlight with the single best wide receiver on the entire planet. That's exactly why all eyes keep drifting right back toward Jordan Addison. His journey since first arriving in Minnesota has been anything but predictable. Most fans reasonably expected a steady upward climb following a genuinely electric rookie campaign, imagining that each subsequent season would bring him another step closer to becoming one of the league's truly elite complementary receivers alongside Justin Jefferson. Instead, his actual path has been considerably bumpier than almost anyone originally anticipated. A suspension to begin last season immediately put him behind the rest of this offense before it even started. Then came a genuinely bizarre situation overseas that landed him on the bench for the entire opening quarter of a game in London. Neither of those individual moments fully defined his season on their own, but they certainly didn't help a player already working to prove he could be trusted, both on the field and off it. What makes this entire conversation even more genuinely frustrating is that Addison still remains one of the cleanest, most technically polished route runners you'll find anywhere in this league. When he manages to create separation, he makes genuinely difficult catches look almost effortless. And there are still real stretches of tape where he reminds everyone exactly why Minnesota originally spent a first-round pick on him in the first place. But raw numbers matter enormously in this league, especially once extension conversations start approaching contracts worth $30 million a season or more. And unfortunately, his overall production has actually declined in a difficult question. Can you realistically commit enormous long-term money to a very good number 2 receiver while you're already paying Justin Jefferson premium, top-of-market dollars? Teams like Cincinnati have managed to successfully invest heavily in 2 true star-caliber receivers simultaneously, but that remains very much the exception across this league rather than the rule. Rob reminded him, sometimes the biggest surprises are the ones almost nobody actually sees coming, and that's exactly why one specific name keeps generating more and more buzz every single time people inside this organization talk about this defensive front. While the majority of national attention has understandably focused on this offseason's splashier roster moves, another player has quietly, steadily earned the genuine respect of Brian Flores himself. That player is Jalen Redmond. If you've been paying close attention over the past couple of seasons, this really shouldn't come as a massive surprise. His path to this exact point has been anything but conventional. Before ever putting on a Vikings uniform, Redmond actually rebuilt his entire career in the XFL, playing for the Arlington Renegades, proving he still genuinely belonged in professional football even after his original NFL opportunities had completely dried up. The Vikings took a genuine flyer on him without much fanfare attached, and very few people around the league expected him to become anything more than a depth piece buried on the roster. But Brian Flores reportedly saw something different in him almost immediately. It wasn't purely about the physical tools either. It was the underlying energy, the relentless effort, and the way Redmond attacked every single opportunity like someone who fully understood exactly how quickly This league can simply move on from a player who doesn't seize his shot. During his first season in Minnesota, he flashed enough genuine potential to earn steadily increasing responsibility. Then, last season, everything genuinely accelerated. He finished the year with 62 total tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 6 full sacks, multiple pass breakups, and 2 fumble recoveries, all while starting 15 total games. Those numbers aren't empty statistical filler either. They genuinely reflect a player who consistently influenced games on both early downs against the run and in obvious passing situations. Alec Lewis of The Athletic recently identified Jalen Redmond as Minnesota's official breakout candidate heading into 2026, and it's genuinely easy to understand exactly why. Defensive linemen capable of anchoring firmly against the run while still consistently generating real interior pressure simply don't grow on trees around this league. Every single defensive coordinator dreams about finding interior defenders who can collapse a pocket from the middle without sacrificing any physicality on early downs. And Jalen Redmond is genuinely starting to look exactly like that specific type of player. What makes this entire story even more remarkable is the sheer value the Vikings are currently getting out of this arrangement. He's presently playing on an exclusive rights tender worth just over $1 million, making him one of the single biggest bargains on this entire roster. Of course, that could all change fairly quickly. If Redmond delivers another genuinely productive campaign this season, Minnesota will have some genuinely important decisions waiting for them once the season concludes. Fortunately, restricted free agent rules currently give this organization significant control over his future without immediately forcing them into an expensive, premature long-term extension. But beyond the contract and salary cap logistics of it all, every truly championship-caliber defense in this league needs players capable of outperforming expectations. Established stars matter enormously, sure, but genuine discoveries like Jalen Redmond are often exactly what separates merely very good teams from legitimate championship contenders. With several veterans now gone and new responsibilities opening up across this defensive front, that opportunity is sitting directly in front of him. Can he prove that last season wasn't actually his ceiling, but simply the beginning of something bigger? If he can, Brian Flores may have genuinely stumbled onto a true cornerstone for a defense that's quietly starting to build a real identity all its own. The rookie class facing Brian Flores' notoriously high bar there's something genuinely fascinating about exactly how Brian Flores builds a defense. And if you've watched this team closely over the past several seasons, you already know one very consistent truth. Rookies don't automatically earn anything in this system. It genuinely doesn't matter where they were originally drafted or how impressive they might have looked back in college. Flores has always firmly believed that meaningful playing time is something a player has to fight for, not something that simply gets handed to him. And that exact philosophy is about to put one of Minnesota's most genuinely intriguing young players under a very bright spotlight this summer. Caleb Banks arrived this offseason with plenty of genuine excitement attached after the Vikings used a first-round pick specifically on the talented defensive lineman, filling what a lot of fans considered one of the more glaring needs on this entire roster. On paper, the path forward seems fairly obvious. The departures of Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen created genuinely significant vacancies along this defensive front, and plenty of people have naturally assumed Banks simply slides right into a starting role without much resistance. But inside the actual building, things rarely tend to work quite that simply. ESPN's Kevin Seifert recently pointed out exactly how reluctant Brian Flores has genuinely been throughout his career to rely heavily on rookie defenders. Across his entire tenure running this defense, only one single rookie has immediately earned a starting role, Ivan Pace Jr., and notably, he wasn't even a drafted player. That statistic alone tells you everything you need to know about the genuinely high-standard young players are expected to meet before ever seeing truly meaningful snaps in this system. Still, there's real, legitimate reason for the growing optimism surrounding Caleb Banks specifically. Internally, this organization reportedly believes he genuinely has everything necessary to win a starting defensive end job outright, assuming his recovery from the broken foot he suffered during the NFL Combine is now fully behind him. Nobody around the league questions his raw physical talent. The real lingering concern is simply whether he'll be completely, fully healthy by the time these training camp competitions truly intensify. If he is, this coaching staff may genuinely have little choice but to use him in meaningful action considerably sooner than Brian Flores typically prefers with rookies. Minnesota simply, genuinely needs fresh impact talent along this defensive line right now. That same underlying excitement extends to third-round pick Dominique Orange as well, who's expected to compete directly with Levi Drake Rodriguez for meaningful playing time at nose tackle. Beyond those two specific names, though, the road becomes considerably steeper for the rest of this rookie class. Jay Bean at linebacker, Jacoby Thomas at safety, and Charles Demings in the secondary all face a genuinely uphill battle against established veterans who already fully understand Brian Flores' notoriously complex defensive system inside and out. Unless unexpected injuries create real opportunities elsewhere, earning significant snaps simply won't come easily for any of them this season. And there's one more possibility that could realistically make this entire competition even more difficult for this rookie class. Veteran edge rusher Jade makes this upcoming training camp so genuinely compelling to watch closely. It's fundamentally about discovering which young players are truly ready to earn Brian Flores' trust in a system where every single mistake can genuinely cost a player a real opportunity. Around this organization, reputation alone only gets a player through the front door. Everything else has to be earned directly on the practice field. And that's exactly where the future of this defense will genuinely begin taking real shape. Wrapping it all up, no matter how each of these individual storylines ultimately unfolds, they all point toward the exact same underlying reality. The Vikings aren't simply preparing for just another routine season. They're actively working to define the next real chapter of this entire franchise. The running game desperately needs real answers. Jordan Addison is chasing the single biggest, most consequential year of his career. Jalen Redmond is working to prove that last season wasn't simply a feel-good story, but the genuine beginning of something much bigger. And a genuinely talented rookie class is about to discover firsthand exactly how demanding life under Brian Flores can truly be. That's exactly why this training camp carries so much real importance. Every single practice, every roster battle, and every individual snap could genuinely shape what this team ultimately becomes once the games finally start counting for real. So tell us, which of these four storylines are you personally watching most closely heading into camp? Drop your thoughts down in the comments because, as always, Vikings Nation tends to see these moments coming long before the rest of the league ever catches up. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Until next time, keep believing, keep defending the North, and as always, stay tuned. Skol Vikings, let's go.